All right, we are joined by Sue Hamilton of SueMe, a YouTube channel. How are you doing today, Sue?
I am doing very, very well. And you?
I'm doing great, and it's really cool to talk to you. I've been talking to different people from across the pond and all over, oddly enough, being brought together by a person of whom I am not a fan, Mr. Christopher Bouzy.
Bouzy.
But before I get into his sordid legacy and attacking accounts and things like that, I would love to know about you because you are a unique creator who's doing video and you are also blind.
Yes. Yes.
So what got you into video? And you could go back a little bit too, because I've heard things about you like you were a child model. You're
Oh
not
my gosh.
originally American. So tell me about yourself.
Well, let's see, the child mom. Oh my goodness. At my age, those stories are so ancient that it's like, whoa, distant past. Um, well, I am trained as an educator. That's
Mhm.
what my degrees are in. But I was a social worker. Uh, and I never wanted to leave my hands on community in terms of one on one social work. That's what I liked. So when I went to get advanced degrees, I got them in another field. Because if you end up getting a doctorate in social work, you're never going to see a client again as long as you live. And that's not
Mm.
what I got into it for. So eventually, of course, I retired and I began making videos with a friend. She had a YouTube channel, and I would just be her frequent guest star. I did that for a couple of years. And then I started my own channel, and it was primarily about um, thrifting, how to buy and sell antiques, mostly because we were targeting a female population that was at one time called displaced homemakers,
Mhm.
women who were not prepared to be breadwinners, who suddenly found themselves alone and needed to find a means of supporting themselves. So that's where we were focused. And after a couple of years, I started my own channel. That was about 3.5 years ago. What to do with the vintage items when you've got them, how to rewire the lamp, how to clean porcelain, etc. Very, very far afield from doing videos about Nutmeg and the Ginger Sock Puppet. But what,
Before we go into that,
oh, of
you
course,
know the question that's coming, of course, right? It is very unusual, especially you're doing technical work, you're describing vintage items, antiques, things like that, but you can't see them. That is a pretty remarkable.
90% of what I do is with my hands.
Mhm,
And think about it, if you're fixing a broken porcelain, your
mhm.
eyes can deceive you, but your fingers won't. And I tell people that all the time. Put your hand on it. If there's a crack, you'll feel it. Your eyes might just skim past that fault, but your
Mhm.
fingers won't. So, in a way, it's kind of an advantage.
For repairs, but how about describing or knowing that this is vintage or not? I'm very curious. This is fascinating.
I'm trying to think, how do I know this? Well, obviously there are marks and you can look them up, and I can do that as well as anyone else,
Mm,
research. But what I see is not what you see, not by a long shot,
right.
but still I can identify it through my own lens, so to speak. Um, I'm not sure I can even explain that. Visually, no, that's secondary for me. It's mostly picking it up, feeling it, handling it, different weights, different textures. But certainly, I do have enough vision if if I get close enough, like right up
Mm.
here, I can usually get through. And as I say, in many ways, your hands are a better judge than your eyes. And if you're not accustomed to taking that visual input, if you are accustomed to the tactile input only, it can actually be an advantage.
Oh, sure. It's fascinating. But what I love too is that you're doing this on video. And immediately in my mind, I'm like, oh, you'd be an amazing podcaster because you could describe things. Of course, you can't describe it visually. So maybe that is part of maybe because it's visual, you can hold it up and say, look at this, and people can see it. And
Yes.
I'm answering my own question.
I have really made a lot of mistakes over the years by trying to describe things visually. Look at this lovely blue whatever, and somebody's like, "No, that's green." It's like, okay, I am aware of my limitations, so I try to work to my strengths and sort of skirt aside the things I know I can't handle.
Well, I think it's amazing. I don't think of it as a limitation. I love hearing different perspectives, everything from dyslexia and ADHD, which seem to be closely related, to me are superpowers for some people. And as an example, some of the top lawyers, I think David Boies is a extreme dyslexic and has struggles mightily in reading, but he memorizes everything anybody's ever said to him in a courtroom, and he's devastating. So I just think that, anything like you're describing that can be seen as a challenge can also be a huge benefit, because yes, I wouldn't notice a crack by feeling it. I'd be like, whatever, it's a base. What do you want? Here it is. Have it.
Oh, yeah. So we are all who we are, and we all come here with different stuff. And here, by the way, I don't necessarily mean YouTube, anywhere you are. We all bring different stuff to the party. And I guess life is learning to make the most of the stuff you have and to learn to get around the stuff you don't. It's just, we all face this. It's just who we are.
That's amazing. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move into, what is it you said? Nutmeg and the
nutmeg and the ginger sock puppet. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Well, they came to me as a gift from the pandemic. When we went into lockdown in 2020, I had a YouTube community. My demographic is mostly women over 40. Many of them, because they were watching YouTube videos, were not because, flip that. The reason they were watching YouTube videos is because they were housebound. They had medical conditions there. There were things going on that meant their socialization was online.
Sure.
When the lockdown came, there were a lot of scared, fragile, isolated people out there. When I started getting comments in the comments section of my videos from people, and remember, I was a social worker, so I know what this is, who were expressing legitimate suicidal ideation, I was terrified. Because remember, now you know this, you have a video channel. You have no idea who's commenting. They comment under handles like Pongo's Mommy. I don't even know what country they're in.
Sure.
But, if I did, I would be getting a wellness check out there. Because these people were on the ragged edge. So I started doing videos 7 days a week. I figured I'll be with you a half an hour. You'll have the community. We had people, therapists, registered nurses who were following the videos, who had offered to stay online, help people out as needed. It was, it had to be done. There's no two ways around it. When we got out of lockdown, of course, I'd been doing videos every day for 3 months. I was exhausted. And I started continuing to do what I referred to as our entertainment videos. And we did everything from reptilian aliens in the White House conspiracy theories, seriously, to Anglo-Saxon 12th century poetry. Whatever I could think of to throw out there.
So from Alex Jones to William Shakespeare?
Basically. No, Chaucer might be a little closer, but yes, throw it out there, anything, because the community was depending on the rest of the community for support. And the only way they get that is when I throw up a YouTube video.
So companionship.
It's the glue of the community. I'm sorry.
So almost a companionship type of.
Yes, it was necessary. We had one fellow, he has since passed, terminally ill. He was giving us dad jokes every day. You know, those foolish little Johnny says to the teacher, dad jokes. It was a necessary community experience for people who were at their wits' end. Not all of us handled the lockdown well. Not all of us had the same equipment going into the game. So eventually, back to reptilian aliens and Saxon poetry, someone said, why don't you start doing the royal family? And I did a video about Philip's mother and Philip himself and the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. And someone then said, do Harry and Meghan. And having come out of that experience, having dealt with suicidal people, it was fresh on my mind. So I believe the first video I did about Harry and Meghan was a video in which I said I did not believe for an instant what she said on the Oprah interview about being suicidal. It was controversial, in my opinion, but
without using the word again, because YouTube is going to just beat me up for that. I don't know if you knew that, but the algorithm does not like the, we'll say S word, and it will flag videos.
Oh, my apologies then.
That's all right. That's all right. I'll work on that. Well, why shortly did you suspect that she did not wish to self-delete?
In part because I have been dealing with people who have legitimately wanted to self-delete for my entire adult life. And she just did not fit the pattern. Her mother was a therapist. Why would she not have called her mother? Her husband had been in therapy. Why would he have not called a therapist? She was not locked in her house no matter what she said. Why would she not have gone to a doctor or an emergency room? All you have to do, even if you are alone in a strange country, is look at a staff member and say, I need to go to the hospital. Bang, you're there, you're done. Why would you go out making all of these public appearances, smiling, oh yes, but, I wish to self-delete. That's not, when people get into that state of mind, they're not smiling pretty for the cameras. Furthermore, afterward, was there ever therapy? How was she to get past it? The problem is, I believed then and believe now, and I've said so, that this was simply a manipulation tool. Something she said to get what she wanted, either from her husband or from the people around her, that it simply never happened. It can't be proved one way or another. I mean, she can say, I did it. I can say she didn't. But the simple fact is, most people who have been in that situation and never got help, which is what she is alleging, they don't just crawl out of the hole by themselves. And if they do, it's a long and grueling process. So I would say no, that never rang true with me. Never. I did not believe it. I still do not. So
to put a cap on it, then essentially it could be said that it's not impossible. It technically could be true, but it would be extremely unusual in your opinion.
Yes. Let me give you an example. Her mother was a therapist. Her sister was a therapist. She doesn't get along with her sister. She gets along with her mother. When my sister-in-law was trying to kill herself with a bottle of baby aspirin, that's what she had, I took it seriously. Just because she's not bright enough to find a better means of doing it didn't mean she didn't want to do it. Oh yeah, she called me. She was afraid of me. She was like, oh my God, that's my husband's sister, and she doesn't like me. And still, she called me.
Hmm.
Because when people are that desperate and they want help, they will grab whoever. She grabbed me, and I am someone she really believed disliked her. That's not true. I didn't dislike her, but of
Mhm.
course she was in a state of mind where things
Sure.
were not tracking out the way they should have. Um, that's just, again, my opinion.
Mhm.
But I stand by it because, as you say, yes, it is possible. It is possible. Is it likely? No, no. We're
Mhm.
talking about a college educated, very assertive American woman. You know, this is not someone who is afraid to ask for what she wants when she wants it. But she was afraid to ask for help. But she was painting a pretty smile on her face, going out to the gala that night. Meanwhile, as she said, sobbing when the cameras were off her.
Mhm.
No indication of that. And additionally, there were a number of discrepancies in the story she told and the story the ginger sock puppet told. So
The name. I'm sorry.
I actually have a sock puppet. I bring him out for videos every now and then. It's like, yes, shall we hear from the prince?
Oh goodness.
But
So
that was the
it's
truth.
kind of obvious that would put you in the crosshairs of some accounts out there, I imagine. Who
Yes.
Sussex Squad, I think they're called.
Yeah. Yes. Sussex Squad. Didn't you deal with the term sugars? Is one
Mhm.
of the other terms we hear. Um, by the way, the history of that is people were called sugars because they were sweet on someone, and it
Mhm.
went back to it's the Hollywood days. So it was never widely used, but yes, you can trace that back to Hollywood. So someone would have been a Cary Grant sugar, for example,
Oh, okay.
uh, because they're
So
sweet.
no, the modern equivalent then is a stan.
I
You've
don't know.
probably heard
You,
Amber Heard stans. I'll give you the
oh,
history. We'll trade. A stan is based on an Eminem song called Stan. And it was about a fan that was so obsessed with the artist that he wound up self deleting with his girlfriend in the car through a series of letters that he's writing saying, Dear M. And he's like going through his whole life. And it's a very sad song. And at the end of it, Eminem replies back saying, Hey, man, I'm sorry I didn't see you that day. I hope all is well, but he's already had been gone. So stan is the term for a extremely obsessed fan. So this is great. It's a generational thing, I guess.
yes, that's and see because I'm from another generation. I
Mhm.
don't even know who Eminem is, so actually I do, but it's not my kind of music.
Sure.
But yes, so it's an old term that got pulled out, resurfaced. The Sussex Squad. I don't now. They did put a lot of comments in my videos. I leave them when they're not abusive.
Mhm.
When they are abusive and bad language, mostly. My channel is not a family channel, but it's family friendly. In other words, it's not
Mhm.
for children. But because my demographic is women over 40, you just don't know who is sitting in their lap when they're watching the video.
Sure.
So, in fact, I even have a little slideshow of little Evelyn, our littlest subscriber, who's been following the channel since she was barely able to stand. And I always tell people keep Evelyn in mind. Remember that you just don't know whose babies are watching.
Sure.
So the comments, if they're simply critical, I leave them. If they are properly spelled and well written, I will actually highlight them.
Hmm.
Usually they're not. I don't know what it is. I get very stupid critics, but
I
believe
have a
me,
thing about YouTube commenters, or many of them. Um, Often wrong, but always certain.
oh yeah. But I've been called everything. What was my favorite? Self-important lunatic. That was my favorite. You
Mm.
self-important lunatic. I love that one. Everything was spelled correctly, so I left it up.
And a good turn of phrase too.
I think so. I think so. Self-important lunatic. Love it. But I left as many of the comments up as I could. When the same person is posting 30 comments, of course, they're gone. When it's full of the F-bomb, gone.
Sure.
But other than that, why? I love free speech within reason. And what I mean by that is, of course, if I tell you this is a family-friendly channel, don't drop the F-bomb, because you're going to be bounced. That's all there is to it.
I have a friend who has a good philosophy on that. He's a lawyer. He's saying that a channel or community or whatever, he views it like a bar. Like, it can get a little bit rowdy, the language can get a little crazy, but if you're just out of hand, you're going to get tossed.
Yeah.
So maybe something like that.
Well, everybody is on notice on my channel that there are children possibly reading the comments. So keep it clean, or it's just going to be deleted. And I don't feel that is at all unreasonable, because any intelligent person can make their point without dropping 4-letter words into the discussion. And if you can't, get a thesaurus. They're cheap enough. But there was some blowback on that, but I kept going. And I'm perfectly willing to keep going, because at that point, I'd done research. That's one of the things I do in my videos. I start researching topics. I don't want to just go out there. It's not just my opinion. This is what the evidence shows. And with the research, I started to see the problems. The problem I have with Nutmeg and the ginger sock puppet is, the ginger sock puppet in particular, remember, this is the guy who came in to my country, thank you very much, stood on a public stage and said that the First Amendment, the right that allows free speech, free press, free assembly, freedom for worship, and freedom to seek legal redress against our government. I'm sure he doesn't know that. A lot of things are covered in the First Amendment. Sure. He said it was bonkers. The very amendment that allowed him to stand up and say these things in the first place. The insane irony of that was lost on him because,
Well, it's like flag burning. Ironically, burning the flag is protected by this. Anyway, yes, it's a similar principle.
So when I looked at that and said, what are they really trying to do to free speech? That's when I started taking it seriously and said, there are a lot of people out there who believe free speech allows them to say what they want to say, but does not allow you to challenge it, which is sort of non-free speech.
Well, it's speech that they like.
Yes.
Anything that they don't like is called hate speech.
Exactly.
It's a coded language. But the truth is that free speech exists not for comfortable speech, not for happy speech, not for speech to make you smile. It is literally created for speech that can offend you, that will bother you, that will push your perspective on the world, because that's how we redress conflict in America, is through that speech where somebody on the side is critical. Critical is very important and says, what you are doing is wrong, and this is why, and the language might be very colorful to get your attention.
Do you remember when the neo-Nazis were seeking permission to march through a Jewish neighborhood in Illinois?
Brandenburg versus Ohio, I think is what you mean. I thought it was Ohio.
Was it?
Well, there's Brandenburg versus Ohio, which I don't know if it's Dershowitz, but I believe it's essentially they defended either KKK or the Nazis or whatever, and they actually were threatening people, but it was generalized, and they said, no, this is free speech.
They were going, it was Skokie, Illinois. I'm pretty sure that's where this one was.
Okay, that might be a second one then.
Yeah, through a Jewish neighborhood. They specifically targeted a Jewish neighborhood. And they were going through screaming, Hitler had the right idea. That was their slogan. burned my butt, but they get to do it. I'm sorry. They get to do it. You can be as angry as you want to.
Oh,
Go
yeah.
out in the backyard and scream. Write an editorial to the newspaper, but you can't stop it. And for me, that was like the defining moment. Can I support this level of free speech, knowing that survivors, European survivors of the Second World War, lived in that Jewish neighborhood?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but it is what it is.
Well, most of them are aware in the Jewish community. Remember, First They Came, the very famous poem, but it is literally that. First they came for the trade unionists, but I wasn't or whatever. I don't remember the order,
Yes.
but it's like everybody, and then finally it's like, oh, now they're coming for me. Well, the people there and the Anti-Defamation League, I think, worked with them, were enough to say, no, we have to let them in order for us to do it too. Or
we have to.
Yeah.
We have to. We just have to swallow hard and deal. That's all there is to it. Free speech is not always pretty. If it was pretty, there would be no problem. Everybody would be happy because it would be nothing but sunshine and rainbows. And
Right.
no, free speech, you put it to the test when you are dealing with opinions you don't like.
Agree.
So that was why because if you talk to people who make videos about Harry and Meghan, you will find a world of different answers. Everything ranging from, I'm British and I support the royal family, and they've called the royal family and the entire UK racist. Basically, they really have. Everything from that to, as an American, I am horrified by what they are trying to do for free speech. But that, by the way, is how Bouzy, because we were going to talk about Bouzy.
Oh, he's coming.
This is actually a good segue for
Good.
Bouzy. I became aware of Bouzy about 6 months after I'd started doing these videos, when he threw out a report. I cringe to call it a report. It was it looked like a Jackson Pollock painting saying, here, look, this proves that only 83 people are saying bad things about Meghan Markle. I swear.
Did you make the list?
Pardon?
Did you make the list?
No.
Oh, well, that's not fair. I mean, you're going through the effort and you can't even make his hate list? Oh, come on now.
I know it's unfortunate, isn't it? But I got the cease and desist letter.
Oh.
Well, after that, I did a video about Bouzy. I started looking into his background. I critiqued his report, which was, my gosh, you can't, the report's so bad you can't even do a legitimate criticism of it. It's just, you just stare at it and say, where to begin?
They haven't gotten better. Trust me.
No, I've seen the last ones. It's pathetic. So he's throwing this stuff out, but he was targeting the community, and I'm doing videos. So I guess that makes me part of the community. No, I was not on his list. I'm not on social media. I don't do Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or whatever they do. Neo-Luddite here. I am an old woman. We didn't do that in my day. We put on our white gloves and we called for a cup of coffee in person. Thank you. So,
or tea to our friends across the pond.
That's right. They would have tea. We would have coffee. We would sit down. We would have our cookie. We would take off our little gloves. Yes, I am old-fashioned. I will admit that. I don't do social media. So he was targeting specifically Twitter accounts in his first report, but he was seeking to get them banned. Free speech. So, of course, I was all over that. He has subsequently come out with other reports. After the video I did about him, he found a lawyer, or possibly a sixth grader. I am not sure. My money's on a sixth grader. To write this cease and desist letter. I brought it onto one of my videos, said, here, look, It's too bad it didn't come in the week before because I had bad allergies and I needed something to blow my nose on. And that would have been perfect. So I threw it in the trash in my office. In fact, it might still be there. Bouzy likes that. He keeps saying, she's the one I sent the cease and desist letter to. Like, yes, I know. I showed it. I ignored it. I publicly said, I am ignoring this. I am throwing it away. So, cease and desist letter. And then he said, let me backtrack a moment. I'm sorry. My channel, after so many attacks and so many members of our community were being, they were having their channels demonetized, taken off YouTube, their Twitter accounts were being shut down. I became concerned that these people who are, they don't really have a clear sense of staying within the legal bounds. So I became concerned and just threw it out to my viewers and said, I want to start the nexus of a fund. Just let's start collecting some money, because sooner or later they're going to go too far. They're going to bring criminal or civil problems to someone within our community. We collected, it's over $11,000 now. By the way, I should mention this because of what I'm going to say next. I have never retrieved the money from the organizations that did the collecting. So the money is still out there in the ether somewhere in the hands of entirely independent third parties. Bouzy then said that I was scamming, that I had taken the money.
Right. I was going to say, he is talking about that now and making claims. I want to be very specific in my verbiage, or not too specific, but he, in my opinion, has implied that either the fund is not real or that you have been misleading people to gather this money, and that you offered or were considering offering the money to Nate for his fund to hide the fact that there really wasn't a fund. That was the implication from what I am.
It's so convoluted, you've got to wonder about it. Well, yes, there is a fund. The money is there. It's in the hands of legitimate third-party collectors of donations. I personally haven't touched it. So it's there. And of course, it's eminently provable. Go to the companies, ask them. You know, it's there. Well, the first time he said it, he said that I was donating it. He put that in quotes, which I believed at the time. I gave him the benefit of the doubt and said, he's conflated this with what my channel does. My channel every month gives $100 to charity. That's not solicited donations from the community. This is money that comes out of the channel's ad revenues.
Sure.
And we just choose a charity and we give them $100. We did Trevor Colt's PTSD charity. And because his channel's been demonetized, I'm thinking of throwing it out there to my community that the last 2 donations for 2022, maybe we should just send it over there, because they've lost their revenue stream.
A lot, yeah.
And that's, well, veterans with PTSD, nobody's going to argue about that. It's a responsible charity.
Well, Bouzy is. Sorry.
Well, no. Well, I thought he was confusing the channel donations with the defense fund, which are totally separate. Defense fund isn't mine. It's not mine. And then, of course, Bouzy came out with another post saying that I had been caught scamming. It's like, well, this is interesting. Okay, so who caught me? What's the scam?
Well, you could have a case of your own, by the way.
Yes. Oh, yes. I know. But I have plans for that, but I'm not going to share them publicly.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Well, Bouzy or his lackeys watch this. Why would I tip my hand? But I don't think it's worth my time to try to sue Christopher Bouzy, because I do not believe that nonsense of bot Sentinel being worth $3 to $5 million. I believe bought Sentinel is a laptop on his kitchen table. Someone told me that, by the way. I believe it. I do not think there is anything beyond this guy and a few made up spreadsheets. I don't think that, you know, I don't think there is a team of researchers, as he says. I don't believe it's anybody but him. Personal opinion.
Well, you do follow the royals, right? So when he says we, he's just using the royal we.
Could be. But, you know, his Sussex Squad are paid. These They pay him. They are paid from somewhere out in California, and they publicly post this on Twitter. So I'm not on social media, but I know many people who have numerous copies, files of copies of the posts showing that these people are being paid to do what they're doing. So they are professional agitators in that sense. They, in turn, give money to Bot Sentinel as donations, which means Bouzy is on the payroll of the people he's supporting. It's, you know, just follow the money.
Sure.
So, yeah, I don't think there would be any point in suing Bouzy. You know, why? Waste my time? No point. I suppose I could write him a cease and desist letter. I've got purple crayons. I'm looking at all he understands.
That would be great if you did. A purple crayon. You have to video it though and put it
Oh
on.
yeah, well I will video it. I'll put my ad on the paper. You know, just dear Christopher, you know, stop this right now. You are a bad boy.
Can you write it in Braille? No, I'm sorry. Could you send in Braille?
I could. Oh my gosh, I could. That's a thought.
I mean, no.
I do like that. You know, that was the level of his to me. I really was expecting purple crayons or dog paw prints on it. You know, it was ridiculous. So that is my relationship with Bouzy. His cease and desist letter claimed that I was defaming him. And as you know, you hang with lawyers. The truth is an absolute defense. If what I said was true, if I can prove it, it's not defamation. It was true. I can prove it. So I stand behind everything I've said in my videos about Bouzy. So,
all right. That's a perfect point to close on and a question for the audience. Should Sue send a cease and desist? And if she does, what form should it take? I'm voting for Braille, but crayons are an option. Sharpies are good. Red ink would be perfect. Please comment below and let us know. And Sue, thank you.
Should I let my cat write it? That's the other one.
Okay.
Audie doesn't have much of a vocabulary, but he is very ambitious when he's got a pen in his hand.
Perfect. And Sue,
thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you.